It's like a few people rushing to pay after dinner. Everyone is rushing to pay, but not everyone really wants to pay. It is very possible that everyone just wants to be polite, because if you are not polite, it seems that you are not sensible. Therefore, there are often people at the hotel bar asking who pays the bill, and you come and go all the time. Charlie saw many such people, but he admired people like Paul, who is witty, decisive, and straightforward. Since he has said something, he will absolutely stop talking nonsense, and send him away directly. This is the way of communication between smart people should take place. Afterwards, Paul took Charlie all the way out of the company and came to the elevator door. He took the initiative to press the elevator button for Charlie, and then an elevator came up from the first floor and stopped on this floor. As soon as the elevator stopped, Paul hurriedly made a please gesture. Just about to speak to Charlie, at this moment, the elevator door suddenly opened, and a super beauty with a glamorous and tall figure, wearing a small suit on the upper body and a skirt with a covered hip suddenly appeared in the elevator. The beauty is glamorous and moving, but at the same time there is no lack of glamorous and sexy look. It can be described as the best of the best, so that all men are excited. Paul looked at her in surprise and exclaimed, "Miss Song, why are you here?" The beauty was about to speak when she suddenly saw Charlie next to Paul. Her cold and pretty face suddenly seemed to be bathed in the spring breeze. With a cheerful smile of the little girl, she said in surprise, "Mr. Wade, why are you here?" Charlie looked up and found out that the person in the elevator turned out to be Warnya, the eldest of the Song family. She was also accompanied by several bodyguards, each holding a beautiful flower basket. Warnya didn't expect to meet her sweetheart Charlie here, and she was naturally very happy in her heart. Charlie felt a little surprised to see her here, and said with a smile, "I came here to help my friend take a look at his feng shui." After all, he thought that Paul had recognized Warnya just now, so he guessed that the two of them must know each other. Warnya smiled and said, "It seems that Mr. Wade, you also know Mr. Paul. I came here because my grandpa asked me to help him and gave Mr. Paul some flower baskets to congratulate him on the opening of his company." After speaking, she realized that she hadn't greeted Paul, so she said with some embarrassment, "Mr. Paul, it's been a long time." Paul is a smart man, and the most contacted suspects in his work as a lawyer, so he has a very strong ability to interpret people's eyes and expressions. FBI in the United States once offered a course on interpreting facial expressions. This is mainly to teach the case handlers how to use the subtle expressions and eye changes of the suspect to guess whether the other party is lying. This is a very high-end psychology category, but it is also a compulsory course for every judicial officer. Paul studied law in the United States for many years, and also became a lawyer, coupled with his childhood family edification, so that he has a unique talent in this area. Therefore, from Warnya's look at Charlie's expression and eyes, he could tell that Warnya liked Charlie. While admiring Charlie, he was able to attract such a stunning beauty as Warnya, and he couldn't help but sigh. It seems that Charlie is really extraordinary, and even the eldest lady of the Song family has a deep love for him. More importantly, Charlie is a married person. The Song family's eldest lady would actually like a married man. This is simply explosive news. At this time, the graceful Warnya walked out of the elevator. Although she came to give Paul a flower basket, her eyes were always on Charlie's body. Every time she saw Charlie, Warnya felt very happy, as if she had returned to the age when she was 18 years old. In fact, an eldest lady like her matured earlier than most people, got in touch with the human world earlier, and learned to put on a mask earlier. But after seeing Charlie, after falling in love with Charlie, Warnya's ability to put a mask on herself failed in front of him. She looked at Charlie with admiration and affection in her eyes, and she answered shyly, "Mr. Wade, how did you and Mr. Paul know each other?" "Mr. Paul should have just arrived in China not long ago?" Charlie smiled slightly and said, "My father-in-law and Mr. Paul's mother are college classmates, so they met each other." Warnya was surprised and said, "Oh, how could it be such a coincidence?" Paul on the side smiled and said, "It's such a coincidence. I didn't expect that. Miss Song, you also know Mr. Wade." Warnya took a deep look at Charlie and said to Paul, "Mr. Wade can be regarded as my savior." Do you remember one time when our export goods arrived in the United States? They were immediately said to be unqualified, but they still want to sue us and make us bear huge compensation? Paul immediately nodded and said, "Of course I remember that time you asked me to rush from the east coast of the United States to the west coast to help you resolve this dispute, but the problem was resolved before I reached the west coast."